The Dongyi Chronicles, tracing the migration of ancient peoples to the Eastern Islands, unlocking the mysteries of Asian history. If the Israelites once walked the overland Silk Road and settled in ancient Chinese villages, then traces of their existence should remain in Chinese historical records. The key to unraveling this mystery lies within the Dongyi Chronicles. These chronicles are found in some of China's most famous historical texts: the Book of the Later Han, the Records of the Three Kingdoms, the Book of Liang, the Book of Wei, and the Book of Sui, all of which document the peoples of East Asia. The well-known Huajindan is in fact part of this same tradition. The term Dongyi refers to the Eastern barbarians, a collective name used by ancient Chinese to describe tribes living to the east. It was one of the four barbarians, north, south, east, and west, who surrounded China. Initially, Yi carried a negative connotation, meaning those to be expelled or outsiders. Yet over time, the perception of the Dongyi transformed dramatically. By the early 5th century, the Book of the Later Han reinterpreted the term positively, describing the Dongyi as those of the East are called Yi. Yi signifies the root of life itself, for by cherishing life, all things take root upon the land. Even Confucius himself is said to have admired the Eastern tribes, expressing a desire to dwell among the 9 Yi. This suggests that Confucius regarded the Eastern peoples, especially those of ancient Korea and beyond, as a kind of moral paradise, a place where virtue still flourished. The 9 Yi emerged between the 17th and 11th centuries BCE during the Shang dynasty and became collectively known as the Dongyi. The land of the noble people and the Immortals. Ancient Chinese texts also describe a mysterious realm in the east known as the land of the noble people. According to the classic of mountains and seas, Shanhai Jing, the people of this land were said to wear robes and crowns, carry swords, eat the meat of beasts, and keep 2 ornamental tigers always at their side. This description suggests a culture that placed sacred guardian figures beside them, much like the Komainu, the paired guardian lions found at Japanese shrines today. Furthermore, the Shanhai Jing records that the people of this land are dark in complexion, live long lives, and seldom die. Both the land of the noble people and the land of the Immortals lie in the east. In ancient Israel, during the age of the patriarchs beginning with Abraham, all were known for their remarkable longevity. Even Jacob, the founding father of the 12 tribes, is said to have lived over 140 years. It is therefore possible that the so-called land of the noble people and land of the Immortals in the east were in fact descriptions of the Israelite people, whose stories of faith and longevity spread across the ancient world. In any case, although the Eastern barbarians, Dongyi, were initially looked down upon and feared, as more became known about them, they eventually came to be regarded with admiration, even by Confucius himself. By the time of the Qin dynasty, China's perception of the peoples of the East had changed dramatically. It was during this era that Xu Fu, Zhoufuku, under orders from the Qin emperor, set out on a fateful voyage to the land of the Immortals, seeking the elixir of eternal life. This legend is believed to have originated from the same ancient tales of the Eastern noble nation, and its destination, as many traditions suggest, was none other than Japan. The truth of the 9 Yi, a possible connection to Israel. In ancient China, the peoples of the East were said to consist of 9 tribes, collectively known as the 9 Yi. These tribes are believed to have first come into contact with China around the 21st to 20th centuries BCE. By the Qin dynasty, they had settled in regions such as Shandong province and the Huai River basin in Jiangsu, and later migrated to areas near the Korean peninsula, eventually extending their settlements into Korea and Japan. Historical texts such as the Book of the Later Han and the Records of the Three Kingdoms describe the Eastern Yi in remarkable detail. They are depicted as a people who upheld moral principles, wore crowns and brocaded garments, had no thieves among them, and valued modesty and restraint. This virtue of modesty is noted as a unique trait that distinguished them from other so-called barbarian tribes. Furthermore, it is written that they respected rituals, used ceremonial vessels for offerings, and even studied Confucian classics. The Book of Suishu, biographies, adds that they loved literature and historical texts. From these accounts, it becomes clear that the Nine Yi originated from a highly developed and sophisticated cultural sphere. During the spring and autumn period, a time of intense warfare and upheaval in China, some traditions suggest that the chaos was triggered by large waves of refugees from the Middle East, whose arrival disrupted the region's economy and stability. It is said that between the 8th and 6th centuries BCE, the Eastern Yi merged with Israelite refugees, forming a powerful and influential force in East Asia. The Sogdians, a people we have also discussed on this channel, shared many similarities with the Nine Yi. The Sogdians were an Iranian-speaking people based in the oasis cities of Central Asia, and from around the 6th century BCE, they dominated Silk Road trade, acting as key intermediaries between East and West. They not only thrived commercially, but also played vital roles in religion, writing, and military affairs. While maintaining their own culture, they spread Zoroastrianism, introduced Buddhism to China, and helped disseminate Manichaeism and Nestorian Christianity. Through these exchanges, they carried the spiritual and cultural heritage of Iran to the Far East. Although the rise of Islamic powers eventually eroded their ethnic distinctiveness, traces of their language survive today as Yagnobi, and it is even known that An Lushan, the famous Tang general who led the An Lushan rebellion, was of Sogdian descent. Thus, from the Nine Yi to the Sogdians, we glimpse a hidden network of ancient Eastern peoples connected through trade, faith, and migration, possibly including the descendants of Israel itself. The Eastern Exodus. It is possible that the mysterious Nine Yi originated from Israel. According to the Old Testament, during Joseph's rule in Egypt, a devastating famine struck Canaan and all of West Asia. While Jacob and his sons went westward to Egypt, could some members of their tribes have ventured eastward, seeking survival in distant lands? Joseph's era, around the 18th to 19th century BCE, coincides with the Chinese Jia dynasty. Thus, it is plausible that some Israelites, driven by hunger and divine guidance, journeyed across the continent, reaching as far as ancient China. Though the journey would take over a year, it was not impossible for the determined travelers of the ancient world. Were the Sumerians the ancestors of the Nine Yi? Another theory suggests that the Nine Yi were descendants of the Sumerians, who fled Mesopotamia after the fall of the Third Dynasty of Ur. At the same time as the Sumerian collapse, the Nine Yi appeared in Chinese history. Given their maritime skills, the Sumerians could well have sailed along the coasts of Asia to reach the east. This implies that many Sumerians may have journeyed all the way to China, carrying with them the seeds of civilization. Shared roots: Japan, Sumer, and Israel. Turning our gaze to Japan, we find striking cultural parallels. The sun and chrysanthemum symbols. The sun motif seen in Sumerian carvings is nearly identical to Japan's imperial chrysanthemum crest. The land of reeds. The Sumerians called their homeland Ki-Engi, the land of the Lord of Reeds. Japan too was known as Toyo Ashihara no Mizuho no Kuni, the luxuriant reed plains. Agglutinative languages. Both Sumerian and Japanese share similar grammatical structures as agglutinative languages. The German physician and naturalist Engelbert Kempfer, who visited Japan during the 17th century, was the first to point out these similarities. He even proposed that the Sumerians, after the fall of their kingdom, migrated en masse to the Japanese islands. Some researchers have claimed that Sumerian inscriptions can be found carved into Japan's sacred Iwakura stones. The mystery of the Ebis and the purple shell dye. When life became difficult in Mesopotamia, Abraham followed the guidance of God and began his journey with his father's clan toward Canaan, modern-day Palestine. The indigenous people of Canaan were said to be the Philistines and the Jebusites, a maritime people. Jebusites is pronounced as Ebis in Japanese. In Japan, the ancient word emishi can also be read as Ebis, and the legendary figure Takenouchi no Sukune was known as Azuma Ebis, meaning Eastern Yi. Azuma is the Japanese word for east. Written in Chinese characters, it appears as Dong Yi, literally Eastern Ebisu. Even today, Ebis worship remains deeply rooted in Japanese tradition, a living remnant of that ancient belief. The Jebusites possessed a unique dyeing technique that used a secretion extracted from a type of sea snail. This produced a brilliant purple dye, so rare and precious that it became the color of royalty. The Japanese term ebi-iro, meaning shrimp red or reddish purple, may in fact derive from this same connection, from Ebus equals Ebis. This tradition also resonates with the Phoenicians, another seafaring people, and finds an echo in the spiritual world of the Jomon people of ancient Japan. Astonishingly, the same species of shellfish that produces this purple secretion has been discovered in the Omori shell mound in Tokyo, with the shells found partially crushed, as if to extract the dye. This suggests that the Jomon people, more than 10,000 years ago, may already have possessed the knowledge of purple shell dyeing. If, 3,000 years ago, the Jebusites of Canaan were in fact descendants of Jomon seafarers who had once left Japan, and if, generations later, they returned to their homeland bringing the wisdom and culture of distant lands, then those people may have been remembered and deified in Japan as Ebisu, the god of fortune and the sea. And even today, the belief in Ebisu is passed down to the Japanese as the god of the sea. The Jomon people were truly a free maritime civilization, voyaging along the oceanic Silk Road. They spread across continents, forming diverse cultures wherever they settled, and eventually, to escape conflict and hardship, they returned to their ancient homeland, the islands of Japan. This suggests that the Japanese are, in essence, a mixed people, shaped by countless encounters and exchanges since time immemorial. In an age when borders did not exist and race was not yet defined, if we travel back 3,000 years, such divisions lose all meaning. The Ebisu and the purple shell dye. Perhaps this story reveals a forgotten truth, that long before nations and races were born, humanity was already one, connected by the endless sea. The Far Eastern Terminus, a theme of historical romance. The Israelites, Jewish people, who inherited the bloodline and culture of ancient Sumer, journeyed across both the maritime and overland Silk Roads, traveling from Western Asia to the Far East. Their odyssey, stretching across continents and centuries, symbolized humanity's eternal pursuit of life, faith, and civilization. If we look even further back in time, we find that after the Kikai caldera eruption in ancient Western Japan, the Jomon people were forced to migrate across the sea. Those who remained in the eastern regions continued to welcome new arrivals from distant lands, maintaining networks of exchange and trade that transcended generations. This shared ability to move, adapt, and trade across vast distances may have been what illuminated the hidden Silk Roads of both sea and land. It is therefore not unreasonable to think that one of the final destinations of these long migrations was the Japanese archipelago. Even within the mythological tales, when the heavenly grandson, Tenson, come to Izumo and tell Okuninushi, the ruler of the land, that they have come to reclaim the country, we can interpret this as a symbolic moment, the return of the Western Jomon people to their ancient homeland. The mystery of the dragon god Arahabaki thus transcends the boundaries of a single kingdom like Hidakami no Kuni. It connects to the grand historical romance that unites the Sumerian civilization, the people of Israel, and the Jomon culture, the most ancient civilization of all. It is within this connection that the forgotten links between East and West, myth and history, and earth and heaven begin to reveal themselves. The next episode will explore the mythical alterations that hid the kingdom of Hidaka. Welcome to the depths of Japan's hidden history. Stay tuned.